Hello, everyone, and hello, Bishop Omar, and welcome to the Black Culture Matters podcast brought to you by Catch the Drip. I am Magatte Wade, the founder of Skinny Skin, the lip balm on a mission, and you can find out more at skinnyskin.com. And here with me is Bishop Omar Jawar, the founder and CEO of the Urban Specialist. This Black Culture Matters podcast is brought to you by Catch the Drip with Magatte and Bishop Omar, a video show that we host together, where cultural icons of our times get to share and inspire young Black listeners to become the best versions of themselves, leading healthy, happy, and productive lives as co-creators of society by giving them the instructions and knowledge they need to succeed. You can find us on all social media platforms at Catch the Drip TV. Was that right, Bishop? Did I say it right this time?
Right. It's getting real good at this now. You're making me nervous.
Don't be nervous. You're the calm one. I'm the crazy one. You're the calm one. Let's switch that.
Yeah, you're doing great. Sound good. I love it.
All right. Well, Bishop, remember on the last session I was telling you about how much you gave me to think whenever you mentioned that 90% reduction in violence through the work that you do, right. Violence in the urban neighborhoods, in Black urban neighborhoods. And so you really indulged us on the last session to walk us through like the magic of what you do. I mean, it's amazing work. It's a whole new world, and I never would have thought about the avenues that you thought about. And so this weekend, I actually have even more questions, if that's possible.
Hey,
so let's see. You ready? You're good. Okay, good. So I've been wondering, and I'm just like, wait a second. How exactly, like, what does the conversion process look like of these OGs that you told us about? And for anybody who's joining us now, OG Bishop has told us it's like, it stands for the original gangster. And so Bishop, I was interested in finding out, are they motivated to convert by means of maybe a personal relationship that, you might have with one of these guys? Is it simply because you're calling, awareness to the immense harm that their behavior is creating in the society? Or is it because you're appealing to their conscience? Or is it because of religion, God? I mean, what do you think makes them come around?
That's a great question, Magatte. And I think that the biggest thing that causes a young person like that to change, we used to call it impact impression. So you walking along this way and then something hits you hard. Something causes you to regroup and reorganize your thinking. So it's at that moment, and we call it, there's a pause in their world. And so it's in that pause where there's a little moment where it opens up. It closes back because they want to try to hide from that moment of pain. And so when they're walking impact, it opens up, and then you can come in with different messaging and ideas when a person's mind is open. I mean, it's like the worst time to have a discussion about what curtains you want is doing labor. What kind of curtains you want to have? This is not the time for that. But when you have that moment and you back and you kind of relax, you got your mind back, you can start kind of opening up. So it's in that moment where they open up that they get new messaging. And now the trigger that causes them to take that leap of faith is just because you are making bad choices does not mean you are unreasonable. So it don't mean that you don't understand. It just means that you think you're choiceless. It was a film in Malcolm X. It was a scene in the Malcolm X film where Elijah Muhammad gave Malcolm X some water and he had some ink in it. And then he said, if this is the only water that someone has to drink, they would drink it. And he showed them a glass of water that was clear. He said, so if they got another choice, they would drink a clear water. So it's the same thing. Initially, they believe it's all I can do. I'm a hustle for life. And so you start believing those kind of ideas until someone says, that you're giving yourself a false choice right now. Like, that there is a way to reach from this place to a whole different stratosphere. And then they are inquisitive. And so is it faith? Yes. Is it because one of our guiding principles is spirituality. So we absolutely believe in God and God's voice in this. Are there historical facts that make you believe more in your culture? Yes. Is it value systems? Yeah. But the main thing is we live in this space from selfless to selfish. And so what we get them to is self-actualization. And so that place is where we try to land them, take them from being selfish, but they're not spiritual beings to the point where they can be totally selfless, but they can say, what am I? And that question of what am I, who am I, what's my purpose, begins to become a real idea. And so these other things become real distractions. Like real distractions. And that's where you get into this dialogue about how do I avoid or how do I minimize those distractions as I'm trying to develop who I am.
So, because I understand you're waiting for a very particular moment in this individual's, life and your interaction with him, does it mean that does it mean that actually, because again, I'm trying for everybody to really visualize the work. Does it mean that it means that you have to basically be hanging? You're hanging because this is not, you cannot just come and say, okay, sit down, we're going to try to go and build that moment. So does it mean that or maybe you do that, I don't know. So do you just hang with a person, or I'm imagining maybe you're, like one of the OGs is assigned to one of these would-be OGs for urban specialists. Let's say one of the OGs is assigned to one of these guys who yet needs to reform. Does it mean that maybe they're going to be just hanging out with each other and spending a lot of their time together, going places, listening to music, doing whatever. And then when that moment comes, boom, the OG recognizes it and kind of goes into it and uses it to move in? Or is it through like a session, like, maybe you're coming and you're talking to your coach, you're coming and you're talking to your pastor, or you're coming and talking to your rabbi or to your imam? Is it one of those situations? Like, which one of those, or is it the mix, or how do you get to that moment?
Well, it's several ways, but the most normal rhythm of it is this. Urban culture moves at a certain speed, and it doesn't have certain filters. So it's in that constant movement. If you paying attention to it, you see the same patterns. You see the same. You see it. And so that's what makes an urban specialist a person who can understand it. Like, have you ever been to a neighborhood? Like, if I went to synagogue with you, right? And we hanging, and I'm walking, and then I say, man, that's a night. And you say, oh, that's poison. Do not touch that. And I say, well, I thought that just, no, that'll give you, because you know what the area is. So people who are OGs and urban specialists, they are so aware at looking at the patterns that they can see it, and it's, and it's sped up for us, but it's slowed down for them. And they can tell, but those patterns are pretty constant. Those patterns of relationship, patterns of interaction, patterns of, when a person is about to become violent, when they are seeking ways to become a better, there are times in your day where no matter who you are, a friend of mine, Alfonso Herrera, used to say that you are not a gang member 24 hours a day. Because sometimes you're your mama's child and you are a regular student, and if you're a father, you're a father. So you're not walking around all day on 10 ready to assault. So so you can see the pattern. So it's in those spaces, those natural spaces. That's why we call it 3I. We call it our 3I methodology. So we invade, intrude, and institute. So intrusion is our program method. And that means you have to get extremely close to those individuals that you are trying to change. So that means you have to be in those areas. It is.
So basically, so sorry, Bishop. So then what I'm hearing from you is, again, so based on what I'm...
You want to be OG? It sounds like you're trying to be OG.
I was gonna announce that to you at the end of the show, but I really want to become an OG. You got a lot of work to do with me, man, to train me. So now that you know the whole truth, please, I'm in training with you. So the best way I have to think about it, does it mean, like, for example, if I have to think about Anton, because Anton, would you say Anton is an OG as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I have to think about Anton, I have to think about Corey. These are all, our brothers. And if I have to think about Anton or Corey, does it mean that it's just by what it all starts by them just being around, a certain neighborhood and checking things out in their neighborhood, because they don't go into neighborhood that's not theirs probably, but they're just checking it out, and then they even can identify somebody, or I'm trying to understand, do people get assigned to the program, or do you scout people to be like, you see, I mean, it's fascinating to me. Please indulge me, because this is...
So that's a good question. I love it, So the way it works, I love your questions. They are just so real. Okay, so let me give you an example. We have engaged with the city of Dallas to provide urban specialists to 4 neighborhoods. Okay, 4 different neighborhoods in the Dallas area. Okay, you follow me? Okay, so we have what we call a night, and we're going to invade these. We got a 90-day what we call a pathway, and on that pathway, first, like in the first 30 days, we have these things, like, really, we do what we call a cultural assessment and planning and engagement. So we host community conversations, we activate a street team, we recruit and we engage different team members, we find OGs, we conduct what we call climate initiatives. Just understand what the climate is. We identify those neighborhood receptors, those individuals who are going to keep us in that kind of space where we can be effective. We build key relationships, and then we host community focus groups that's related to what we're doing. And this is that's how you invade a neighborhood. And this is the first 30 days, right? Now, after that, we start getting into training and infrastructure. We test the saturation of positive messaging. So we test our ability to have our OGs to spread messages, informal and formal, on radio and hand to hand and blah, blah, blah. So we started trying to saturate.
What do the messages look like, Bishop? What does it sound like? I mean,
so it would be Twitter feeds or Snapchat or Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives or billboards or text messages, and all of them talking about these new ideas that we are saying, which are not new, but these ideas of peace. Like here's something that we would say. Hey, remember that real men stand alone. Okay, that's a statement that we will make. Real men stand alone. And then they will get a little message from me that says that no matter how tempting it is to follow those that you are used to, most of those have not seen where you're going to be, so they are not qualified to take you where you're going. So real men got to stand alone. See, so I'll say something like that. And then we'll say we're going to have a meeting tonight at wherever we designate. And then that meeting will be with the OGs and the young people, and where we'll reinforce our value system. And then we do a conflict resolution side where we ask in truth, tell us what conflicts are we having this week or tonight or tomorrow, so that we can.
And give us an example. What can conflict be? Give example.
Like it could be, hey man, someone from another neighborhood came in our neighborhood and shot up a park, or they jumped somebody, or they, and so those individuals are trying to figure out, so how do I process the violation, and then what is my retribution? And so that's when we come in and we have to unravel that through OGs. So we figure out who was the person and what was the cause and how do we operate in that. So you really have to really get close and become intrusive. You got to get inside, you know, I don't know if you ever heard this, but people say, you're getting in my business. Yeah, we get all in your business because it's really important for us to keep unraveling that until it becomes abnormal, even in a place where you have been violated, for you to just choose violence as your means to justify the violation or to cry out against the violation. You cannot use violence. So that's what so that's kind of a 30,000 foot view of it. But like I said, the closer you get, the more nuance you see.
Got it. So, so when that happens, and then do you typically, so I was gonna ask you if you typically only speak to one person or to multiple, but it seems to me that sometimes a whole village can be involved, if I can say it that way. And does it ever happen where you convert the leader, but then the followers, for some reason, are like, that's a pot of crack, man. No, you're crazy. We don't know what happened to you or what, you know what I mean? Does it ever happen? What type of voodoo did these people do on you? You're crazy. You know, does it ever happen?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you have some people that say, man, we love what you're talking about and we respect it, but we're not going to do it. You know, we have too much of an incentive to keep going the way we're going. And I understand. What I say to them is, would you commit to not being in the way? Would you commit to allowing those who want to be a part of, don't make them feel as if their growth is a challenge to your stagnation. If you want to stay where you are, let the others grow, because leadership is designed to give the person the best possible outcome. So they do that. You know, I'd rather have somebody say, no, I'm not going to do it. They normally do it. Now, it comes out in some more areas, you know, like when they start doing well, everyone wants to jump on board or get upset because I wasn't part of it. And so you start getting into that. But for the most part, most guys will allow that to be a true exchange. Give me that child so we can raise a standard up in that child, or even that man, you know, he's broken, let's rebuild it. So most people give us the room to do it.
See, Bishop, even in that, to me, I don't know if folks who are hearing and listening to this can understand even the importance of supposedly when you're not able to turn somebody around. Because what I'm hearing from you is this is a big problem in the neighborhoods. It's the fact that some people do not want to get, you know, to improve anything in their lives, but they won't let others. And we have seen how many cases do we hear of kids who want to turn their lives around, or even, for Christ's sake, a kid who just want to be good at math and be a good student in school, and he gets beaten up by others who deemed that it's not black enough to be good at math or to be a good student. That's the white, you know, boy thing or whatever. Everybody wants, it's like nobody wants, they don't want you to leave the crab's nest. If, you know, you and I, we know what we mean by the crab's nest. So I have seen so many cases and heard of so many cases where somebody gets gunned down for, you know what Bishop and the OGs have to offer. It sounds appealing to me. I'm tired of this life of violence. I wanna be somebody in my life. I wanna live like a normal life, you know, without violence and everything. But yet, what happens to them? They get jumped. They get beaten up when they don't just get flat out killed for not wanting to be. I've heard of situations where the gang members would say to some young man, or you're gonna join the gang, or you're going to have to leave town and go somewhere else. If we can't have you, no one here can have you. And if you decide to stay and not join us, we're going to hurt your parents, your family. So they don't really have a choice. So if people hear, so based on that, I think it's fascinating to me, and I keep using this word, but even in a situation where one might think that maybe you didn't succeed, but in a way you're still succeeding, because you have managed to find a way to open the path for others to take the journey. Yeah, where in other places, most.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead. But I was saying, to me, I wanted to pause on this for a second because this is key. This is crucial. You're telling me that you're creating a space of choice in places that oftentimes there is no choice. You're going to go with the lead alpha male dog who, whatever he decides to do is what's going to go. If not, you're going to have repercussions. And you're saying that you come to a truce with them where they say, yeah, I'm not going to do this, but I'm not going to stand in the way. That in itself is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, let me unpack that because I'm going to tell you something here. See, when you have a person who is used to hiding and used to using their physical strength, their when they're used to using their reputation as a gangster, whatever, as their way to communicate. When I'm saying I'm gonna take your communication, you become mute. You become, you're not as cognizant, or you're not as quick. You're not, because you don't know what you're doing. You're trying to figure out what is this new landscape that I've been cultivating for years. By the way, that's what they would say to me. By the way, Bishop, I've been a gangster for a long time, so now you want me to try to switch it up to do what? So there are times that they become so upset that they lose sight of where they're going. And so when they lose that sight, it becomes harder to convince them that this road is worth it. But when they are convinced, they are the most special converters of people who believe in this more than a lot of people I know. They have that kind of capacity, that kind of willpower. And that's what makes it so strong, because you'll get addicted seeing people who were going down but decide to come back up. You'll get addicted to seeing the joy and the peace and the ideas come alive inside of them. So but I do have an expectation that there's going to be some pushback and that's just part of it. But they are never the majority when it comes down to real stuff. Never.
See, that's also this is so hopeful. For me, it gives me so much hope to know that they're not the majority. And even when you encounter those people who are, for whatever reason, Bishop, I'm not there yet, but at least they give you, I'm not there yet, but I'm not going to stand in the way. I think that ability to get to the place where they promise to not stand in the way.
Right.
Because I've seen so many people, like in neighborhoods where you're not, that's what happens. So many people would love to take a different path, but they're afraid of that, that alpha leader who decides, no, we're not going to go down this path. Wow. And what changes have you seen in behavior that's beyond just reducing the violence? Like, are you able to, have you found yourself that in doing this work, in addition to taking the violence down, are you able to help them become better fathers and or husbands? Are you able to help, does any of them actually change the way they make money in this life? What other type of changes in behaviors are you seeing happen with those with whom you've been working?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because, see, everyone is trying to be brave. Everyone is trying to keep a stiff upper lip. Everyone is trying to be their best versions of themselves. But the change happens. And I'm going to tell you something. Being vulnerable with those that you have no history with, even if you have initial trust with, is very difficult to mentally frame. Being vulnerable to that, especially to the extent that our vulnerability covers, along with the environment stuff, along with the doubts, along with the history. It's like, man, it's almost like you, what's that movie, Matrix? Have you seen Matrix? Where they ask them to take the red pill or the blue pill. And when you take the blue pill,
I know that you think I'm like the no cool lady, but yeah, I've seen that movie, Bishop. Thanks a
No,
lot. I mean, really
I got them club pictures, but no,
yeah,
red and the blue pill. That is so,
right.
it kind of feels that unnerving, and they're flapping. They're flapping, trying to. I'm trying to get my, and then you got me standing beside them saying,
He's flapping. Do it again. They're flapping.
he's flapping. And so while they are flapping, I'm the guy standing beside them saying, don't worry, you're going to get a good landing spot. You okay. And it is so, I don't know if it's scary or if it's so revealing. Yeah, it's so revealing of who they are, of what they are, of what they represent. It reveals itself, and it is, you got to be, mentally, you got to be sharp enough to say, all right, this kind of transition requires this type of stripping. And it's not an easy sell, because you may as well say that at the beginning, so a person won't have a false sense of what's going to happen, because it happens like that all the time.
Unbelievable. So, so have you seen, and I will go back to this one question, because to me, I understand, that economics can be pretty powerful, is actually very powerful, because at the end of the day, we know drugs represent a lot of money. So some people might just be like, well, sorry, but yeah, it's a lot of money. So have you seen anybody say, I'm going to take a different path? Maybe not like, weed or whatever, but the hard drugs and things like that. Do you see any of them saying, I am going to take a different path from here on. I'm going to make my money differently. Although, Bishop, what I've heard, many of us, when we think about, some of these illegal activities, we think drugs and drugs and drugs. But did you know that actually it's prostitution that brings the most money?
Yeah.
I was shocked when I heard that.
Oh, you were shocked when you heard that?
I was shocked, yeah, because to me, you don't think of that, but it makes sense, because I guess when they're younger, drug dealing is like, it's this thing, and plus it goes with youth and testosterone and all of that, the violent nature of that world. But then, maybe as those guys become older, maybe now they're like, oh, we need to be, stay a bit safer or whatever. And I guess then they become, pimps and who knows what else. And it feels less, at least for them, it feels less violent. Maybe, like you're not at the, maybe I'm saying it in a clumsy way, but you know what I'm trying to say here, that one, as they get older.
No, you're not saying that in a clumsy way. You're saying it in the right way, because this is not a cookie cutter process. You're right. As you get older, your priorities shift, and and your mortality kicks in, and your why I can't believe I made it kicks in, and all these other kinds of factors make it to where your brain says, take advantage of moments and don't live in rebellious fantasies that keep us children and don't take us to, real adulthood.
Okay. So I go back to the question, because I haven't heard you answer me on that one. Have you encountered folks who say, along with my transformation, no more drug dealing for me? Or have you seen people who are able to transform, but they still stay in the drug dealing or whatever they're doing, but at least they no more senseless violence, like they reduce, violence has gone down. They keep their activities going, but at least now it's separated from this extreme violence that was there before. What are you seeing happen? Or are you seeing a little bit of everything happen?
I think that it's a little bit of everything happening, because you got this kind of, this atmosphere is charged with people who believe they are activists and they are this and they are that. So you got folks who've been on the fringe. When they get changed, they want to go all out. You know, they want to become evangelical. They want to become, you know, this is what we're doing, you know, come on, everybody. And then you have this other group that's saying, I got to weigh my options because I'm not just doing this for pleasure. This has become, this, you know, it's like an alcoholic. You know, now I drink to be normal, not so that I can be drunk. So with them, now I'm cutting deals and all that so I can be in the mix. I don't want to get back like I was. So it's almost like they are living, like in some in urban culture. Now watch this. They seem to be living a dream, but experiencing a nightmare. That's how I feel.
Interesting. Wow. So you're seeing some of them. So what you're trying to say is some people just completely reform. They're like, no more drugs for me, no more anything of that illegal nature anymore for me. I'm moving into something else. Those are maybe the people who would even go evangelical. And we all know it might be an image. Sometimes but sometimes it's for real. They go and become pastors, who knows? And then, but you're also saying that others are, okay, I get it. But either way, it looks like there's definitely a change in behavior, whether it's on the economics that they pursue or not. Interesting. And you know, Bishop, I wanted to go back to something that you said last time we were speaking, because I wanted you to dig deeper on that one. Do you remember when you said, we were talking about, you know, you mentioned about pointing to this young man, to this young OG, and saying, you see, you're in this neighborhood, and so doesn't want to move here, and so doesn't want to set up a business here because of you and your activities. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Who is the so-and-so? Is it other Black people who don't want to live in that neighborhood? Is it other, you know, business owners who don't want to come to that neighborhood? Explain more who these people who could come in are and why they're actually not coming.
It's
what do you mean?
Magatte don't want to come to the neighborhood. Her and Michael. That's who it is. They say, y'all,
And why do you think I don't want to come to the neighborhood? Tell me. Why? I don't like, no, but in this case, why would I not want to come to a certain neighborhood?
Because there is this idea that it's a violent, less filtered environment is how I describe it. And because because you have violence, less filters, and speed, you have deadly mistakes because you can't see the plate, you can't see the board. So someone has to calm it down so you can see it, and then you can make great moves. But initially, it's just going and going and going. And so that's why it's hard for folks to yield and say, this is what I should be doing, because you're trying to, you know, you're going too fast of a pace.
So then, do you think you could blame me in that situation? If me, Magatte, another Black person, or a white person, or whoever it is, do you think I could be blamed if I choose not to move into such a neighborhood because of what you talked about? Could you blame me?
No.
Why not?
Because your service is for you to collectively or individually give of your heart, your talent, or whatever. But your service is so that you are best positioned to do so. And if that means I have to live here and work here, I'm willing to do it. See, the goal is not to get everybody to come back to the hood, everybody. The goal is to say we must function as a community with different areas of our responsibility and do it in the spirit of the Constitution and in the spirit of Frederick Douglass. See, that's the kind of stuff that most of us don't think about. And we get these bilineal choices, you know, either you with me or you all the way against me. And you say, no, I'm really with these ideas, and these ideas on some level match to you. And let's see how they match, and then we can do something with it.
I guess, Bishop, the reason why I was asking you this question, and I was asking it this way, is because I wanted to kind of compare your point of view with the point of view of a lady who's en vogue right now. You might have heard of her. Her name is DiAngelo, and she's famous for the book called White Fragility. And she will say that the reason why white people, and maybe, you know, why she says for her, in her world, the little world in which she lives, basically the reason why a white person would elect not to move into a black neighborhood is simply because of racism. And so I wanted to see what your thoughts are on that. How do you reconcile that with the fact that, you know, maybe there is a very, you know, do you agree? Do you think that's the only reason? Or can you see another point of view that has nothing to do with this very reductive way of looking at the world?
Well, I do, you know, we acknowledge racism when we see it. We acknowledge classism when we see it. We acknowledge separatism when we see it. But we don't get defined by it. You can't say the reason white folks don't move. And see, because if you say that, then what about the white guy that did? Or what about the Hispanic lady that did? Or what about this? So it becomes a much, much clearer picture when you say that we try to identify ourselves with what we believe is the best part of us. So we don't want to be seen as a racist. So we can hide and say, well, you know, I'm going to vote this way, or I'm going to do this, you know, to try to keep people off our trail. But I think more than anything, I think race is the quickest issue, but I think it's class and this other stuff that kind of keeps that narrative of us versus them going.
Right. But in this situation, though, Bishop, because you're the one who told me yourself, you take the OG, when you point to the OG and you tell him, because of your shenanigans, people don't want to live here. And for me, when I hear that, knowing what you're talking about, basically the shenanigans are because of your senseless violence, the fact that there's, you know, let's say somebody moves here, has children to take to the school, this school that you told me about, there are 8, you know, gangs kind of at war with each other in there. Even the kids who want to play sport can't play sports. If I'm a mom of, you know, of 2 children or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever, who can blame me for saying, no way I am bringing my children in an area where they risk being jumped, and you, OG, maybe are going to bring them into the drug thing. Me, it's more, I think when you are talking to the OG and you're pointing to him, so-and-so could live here, but they're not going to because of your shenanigans. At that point, to me, it's very clear that there are shenanigans going on. And, you know, that's the main reason why these people don't want to be there. The only ones who come are the ones who can't go anywhere else, maybe. So I don't know. I'm just saying, I thought that maybe that's what you had in mind when you point to the OG, so-and-so doesn't want to come there. I mean, I'm the first one to tell you that I love unity, I love cohesion, I love the idea of living together, but it has to really be that. Never, ever will I bring my children in a situation, and by the way, I don't have any kids, but, you know, in the situations where it might be, I don't know, some others might know how to do it. You, because of all the training you have, you can navigate some of these waters. But the rest of us, can we? And even if we can, do we want to spend all of our energy every day mitigating? So that's all I was trying to point to. But in a situation like, all I'm saying is, sometimes we don't see that side of a deal. So for a woman like her to say, it must just be racism. And I'm like, in this case, as a matter of fact, no. I know plenty of perfectly nice people, black, yellow, green, whatever, who would, you know.
See, man, this is how I see it. Because you acknowledge one hurt does not mean that that prescribed hurt is the full prescription for the whole world. Remember I was telling you about that? No.
I get it, Bishop.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that, so.
I understand. Sorry, Bishop. I'm just very sensitive about this because, you know, there's something that really, I'm having a really hard time with it, Bishop, because, and that's why I bring this up. and you're my bishop, so you you do happy. I'm just kidding. No, but you know, no, but at some point, I find that we need to keep our eye on the ball. And the ball is us. We want betterment for our community, right? You and I, we're not talking about any other community. We're talking about the community that we know, the community that we belong to, the community that in a way is, ours. Today, we're talking about the Black community, you and I, right? We're very simple about that. So I think it's kind of very sad, when not flat out dangerous, for us to always accept the premise, the reductive premise, and we've talked about it, of no, it must be just race. Because in this case, I'm hearing, take this situation. We are in a situation where, for some reason, there are some people who do not want to move into this neighborhood that happens to be a Black neighborhood. Mm-hmm. The neighborhood that you're talking about when you're talking to the OG, when you're telling the OG, you see that person doesn't want to come in because of you and what you've been doing and how you've turned this place. That neighborhood. Now, we observe that fact. There is neighborhood A, shenanigans S going on for so long, and somebody said, I'm not going there. You have DiAngelo. If it happens to be a white person, or DiAngelo is going to say, but dear, this is happening simply because this person happens to be white. And it's nothing else but them being racist. For me, when you leave it to that, and the whole world says, yes, that's true, it is racism, therefore, everything is fine. OG, change nothing to what you've been doing. Neighborhood, stay the way you are. Culture, everything is good. There's nothing wrong with you. But we're going to take that white person's ass, take them to some concentration camp where we're going to have to twist their brains, and then we bring them back and everything is great. Bishop, we do this to ourselves all the time. We're at the point where anybody who says anything to us, you must be racist. But my problem with that part is, if we're willing to take it face value like that, and we make it the whole thing, then I'm afraid that we miss the opportunity to become better. So when do we know indeed that something is supposedly truly racist and when it's not? And regardless, how does one know? I don't care about this DiAngelo woman who wants to victimize me her whole life. Maybe it makes her sell tons of books and makes her become a millionaire. I don't care, but it's not her community that's in trouble here. I still have to do the job. I too still have to do the job. I'm not going to listen to her nonsense that's putting me to sleep, basically, and doesn't challenge me to be better. Help me reconcile this, Bishop, because it really pisses me off. It really makes me mad and angry, sometimes to the point where I'm just like, don't talk to me about racism anymore. But I can't do that because I know it's there. But so how do I make sure that, we do not let people like this stand between the way of who we are today and what we could become? By always telling us, oh, nothing wrong with you, poor baby, or I don't need your poor baby, lady. I don't. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. See, so that's big. And I hear you. I can feel your passion too. I feel you. I don't think I don't feel you. I feel you.
No, I'm just so sick and tired. There she is selling her books and everything, and we stay wherever we are. OG, there's nothing wrong with you, OG. There's nothing wrong with you and your senseless violence. Keep on going because everything is because of what has been done to you. In the meantime, I sell my books and I sell my $20,000 workshops, like discrimination workshops. As long as, but make sure to stay the way you are. Sorry. Go ahead. Right. Sorry, Bishop. I'm done.
Hey, let it out.
I just feel they need to leave us alone, okay? We're doing our work. They need to leave us alone.
Yeah. So here's the deal. That idea that you cannot be criticized unless you're a racist is such a flawed premise. It's such a foolish idea that I rarely really go into, but I'm gonna go into it today. See, having critique in a productive way, even if it's a tough critique, gives you the credibility to say, I trained up, I put in the work, I handled my business. So I shouldn't be villainized just because I have a critique as others have critiqued me. See, so what happens is we have to define who and what our family is so that these others who are critiquing are making mere suggestions or observations, but they can't affect the behavior. See, right now, you got people whose behavior is affected and they are trying to live up to some call that's not real. And they're putting themselves in a dangerous position. So I don't agree that every time a person comes to me and say, excuse me, sir, you got to move your car. As race, because it was a black man. No, because you didn't know parking lot. You know? So I don't believe.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
So when I see people say that, like I told a friend of mine who was going to do a big donation for an organization, he was saying that the founder was very critical of him. And, you know, I want to just, you know, show it up. I said, well, the last thing you want to do is give something to someone who has already told you that your demise is his progress. So you don't even, we don't do that. We are honest enough to say, not at all, I'm not with you. I'm out. Yeah.
Very good. So that can put me to peace. So Bishop.
And let me say one more thing.
We only have it. Yes.
I know just a few minutes, but let me say this. Let me say this.
Sure.
That you are one of the few persons that I know that's willing to say to the culture, you have to do better. And say it, see, you got to say, Christ said it like this, truth in love. See? And that's where we have to start accepting that there's certain truth that we got to tell in love. And some people can't accept it because the narrative, the greater narrative stays in an atmosphere that you cannot change, you can only acknowledge. I cannot change what happened in the 60s. I can acknowledge it though. But if I stay there, that makes me unprepared for the present. And it don't give me the kind of grace I need to help those who are in need. So I just give you some preacher points on that. You can take those. Those are good ones.
Well, no, thank you, Bishop. Thank you for saying that, because as you know, it means a lot to me. And it's interesting that you said this concept of truth in love, because when you told me that I'm one of the few people who is willing to, you know, tell the culture we need to do better, we can and should do better, it's because I feel so morally, I have a moral urgency about it, and I am not willing to back out of it. And if you ask me why, it's because, and I will answer for you, it's because I love us and I respect us. See, if you love and you respect someone, you never victimize somebody that you love and respect. Never. Because if you love and respect someone, that someone is this big for you, this big. So you expect the moon out of them because you respect them, because you know they can do it. So that's really the place I'm coming from. So I have really little to no patience for anybody who is making my big hero look like a little, you know, in distress damsel or, you know, like guy. I refuse that. So yes, I will say to my people, you guys have no idea who we truly are, because I know who we truly are. We are these fascinating, amazing people whom once we really, you know, manifest our greatness to the world, it's going to be mind-blowing. That's the vision I live with. So of course I have no patience for people who are, you know, if we're not manifesting our greatness to that level. So yes, love and respect is a reason why I am so, crazy about this. And my friends tell me, you're crazy, Magatte. But I'm like, I think a lot of my friends don't even believe that we could achieve what we are talking about.
And see, and I'm gonna tell you something. The difference between what you do and what you say is you have a connected value system that says this is unacceptable. See, so when you're coming from a value system that says this is unattainable, see, it goes into these different framings. See, too much of our systems say unattainable, unattainable, unattainable. And then someone should say unacceptable, unacceptable, unacceptable on both ends with the same vigor, the same passion, the same gravitas. Not it's, and so that's what you got. And so you got this kind of, and so that's why your voice sounds right. It's almost like when someone is telling you the truth and you saying, man, they know me, they got me and they ain't gonna let me off the hook. And that's a good thing. But
yeah.
Yeah, and then when they, and especially when they have said, look, I have done it. I am a part of the reason that you can say it. And that gives, so it leaves you little room to vacillate and play around. You got to say, okay, they own that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and except Bishop, that it is all true. And I feel that the reason why you succeed at basically what you're doing with the culture is because, and we can never stress it enough, you don't just tell people we should and we can do better. We're also accompanying people. Because maybe in my case, I was truly blessed in my case to be born to my parents were, together, married, they still are. I was fortunate to have a strong support system in my grandmother. I had tons of mentors. I had tons of people who cared about me, who cared what happened to me, whether I ate, did not eat, what I ate, what I didn't eat, did I sleep enough, not, and people who were there, working on my character set day in and day out. I was blessed and it was a privilege that I had. So when I meet, so I get that. And when I meet with someone like Nati, who was born to parents who were drug dealers, for example, or to other people who come from a family where they didn't get to know their father because their father maybe was in jail or who knows what else happened, I am humble enough to recognize I was fortunate to be born into conditions that really gave me a good start for life. So what I think is important for all of us today to recognize is, while that is the desired premise, and we should try to make that true for as many kids coming up as possible, like from the kids who are going to be born tomorrow. So that's why I'm a proponent of try to make sure you have your children together, in a household of two. Try to make sure you spend time with your children. But I think where you and I, we really see eye to eye, and I think that is a little bit what's different from it, is that we are saying, Nati, to someone like Nati, and I bring her up because for me, she is the model of what can happen if some of us are willing to bridge for her, right? So to say, you did not have those. So what we're going to do as a community is we're going to play that role for you. What you were not lucky to be born into, the rest of the world, the rest of us are going to be here for that. And here, I'm not necessarily talking about bringing you money or anything like that, but I'm talking about those values, that value set that comes from having a stable home where you get to see, parents, and they get to spend time with you. If for whatever reason you were not able to get it, I am not going to blame you for it, because just like I didn't do anything for it, I just was born into it. therefore, I can't blame you for not having it because you were not born into it. But what the rest of us are going to do, we're going to say, Nati, you can and you still should still do better, but we're going to help you with it, right? In her case, it's like, you know what I mean? So I think you, me, and others, that's more where we're coming from. Again, remember, because I insist on this, because right now, we don't have that healthy little middle. What I have on one end is people saying, you're doomed because you're Black, you're crazy, nothing good is ever going to happen to you. You know, you're inferior. Or you have all of these other, you know, usually Black conservatives, many of them, who are just like, toughen up, you know, just toughen up, whatever. And then they don't want to recognize they don't have a part where they have really practical solutions for you. They don't have a support system for you. They don't have anything like that, but they expect you to just pick yourself up and move on. So that's on one end, which you can see why it just doesn't work. And on the other end, you have people who say, oh, you poor baby, nothing wrong, nothing wrong, nothing wrong. We're going to change other people, then everything is going to be better. Where when you do that, you denied this person the fact that she owns her future. So all I'm trying to say is the reason why I want to insist on this is because I really, really think it is criminal to not help people achieve their potential. And what we're doing, all of this conversation is just about that. I think it is this sweet spot of saying to folks, I hear you, I get it, and anything that you were not blessed to be born with from the standpoint of character building, we are going to substitute. We are going to bring you, you know, a presence that looks like a father present, although we can never substitute fully for it. Mm-hmm. But we're going to do our best as a community to bring you that, so that you and Magatte, technically, you almost have the same, you know? So from there, you can use it as a springboard and go and become these amazing ladies that we know both of you can be. Nati's doing her thing, I'm doing her thing, somebody else doing her thing, regardless of where we came from. And to me, that's what this conversation is about. But if you don't allow us to recognize it, we go nowhere. And so I might sound like I'm repeating myself, but I'm not even sure that people are seeing the subtlety of what I'm trying to bring up.
I think this, you know, you are speaking in a powerful language right now, because it is aspirational, it's inspirational, but it's technical. You can see the technical influences that are used to kind of move in that space. And most people can't see the technical side. See, this is what I tell folks. They normally do drive-by analysis of complicated problems. So they cannot look deeper and say, you know, if it was 10 people that they said looked like terrorists, but one of them was a soccer player. I mean, dude, you might want to get all of that right. You can't just say all of them terrorists, you know. You know, he said, no, I play soccer, man, you know. And that's what happens, man. You know, these guys, they just kind of do it and say, yeah. And but you are saying, no, I'm intricate enough to look at the details in people's ideas, their thoughts, their behaviors, their history, their upbringings. But I'm also inspirational, saying no matter what happens to you, you're responsible for what you do for you. So I'm both of those. And those two things can exist. But sometimes people don't know that they can exist in the same space. So they get worried and they get nervous and they start saying, you know, it's easier just to say it's all or nothing. You know, it's easier to do that. It's easier just to blow it off. But this type of intentionality is so critical in us moving that needle forward, you know. And so I'm hoping that this Black cultural matters, that people can hear what I hear when I hear you. I get excited. You know, I'm always teasing and playing with you, but I really respect you. I mean, and I know what we have. You know, it's very rare. You know, this is a space. I tell my team, I said, man, this is a small patch of grass that we're trying to land in. You know, and others on these other. So we landed in a little small patch, but it's okay. I mean, we can do this. You know, we are, as a matter of fact, we are called to do it. We are charged to do it. If we don't do it, who's gonna do it? So I'm hoping that they really get this kind of cadence and this rhythm, and I'm really excited about it. So
Me too.
That's my thought. I'm excited about this.
Thank you, Bishop. And my last question to you, it's a very simple one, but it's, would you then say that, would you go as far as saying then that the work that you do is in a way you're changing a microculture? Or would you say that it's too big of a claim? Or would you say that truly, in the end, what is taking place with the work of urban specialists is changing the microculture?
I would say definitely. I say that's if we are not, it's just because we have not been successful, but we are absolutely trying. Our efforts are that. We are saying, and we're saying that it's changeable, that it's transformational, that it's redeemable, that it is still beauty left in those ashes, that there are phoenix that's going to rise. We're saying that. And so inside of that, we have to create these subcultures, these atomic level, these molecular things that we say that. And some people might say, it don't mean nothing. Well, it means something to that molecular source that will create something else. And they'll fly out of there. And you say, how did they get out of that? And then that will give hope. Because sometimes I tell people we're selling hope, man. And hope works when you don't have product. So that's what we do. We keep doing. Have I told you my story about the rats? The rats? Have I told you my rat story? I got to tell you this. I'm going to end with this.
Oh, the rat. I heard it, but I love it. So say it again. I heard the rat story.
Rat story. Y'all got to hear this. This is a good story, man.
Indulge me. I love it.
2 rats. They were submerged in water. It was about 20 minutes. 1 rat died. The other rat was about to die. They rescued the second rat, and they gave the rat all that they could do to make the rat comfortable. I don't know what you do with rats, but whatever they did, they made him feel alive. And so a couple of weeks later, they put a new rat in submerged with water, and they put the other rat that was saved, submerged it. And that rat, the second rat, the new rat, died 20 minutes. But the rat that had got saved, it kept churning for an hour, over an hour, because the rat assumed that somebody was going to come get him, because it had seen what hope felt like. Sometimes all we got to do is have just a little hope, and it will keep your resilience and your perseverance and your thought patterns up. So what we are trying to provide is that little hope so that somebody can keep churning. And we never know who's coming. You know, we may be a part of this new kind of normal that's created by Magatte and Bishop, and I like it. I like it.
On that note, Bishop Omar, you always give me such good hope. Thank you so much. So thank you, Bishop. This Black Culture Matters. So guys, this Black Culture Matters podcast was brought to you by Catch the Drip with Magatte and Bishop Omar, a video show we host together where cultural icons of our times get to inspire young Black listeners to become the best versions of themselves. And they do it by, giving them instructions and knowledge that they need to succeed. You can find us on all social media platforms at Catch the Drip TV. Bishop, as usual. Such a pleasure. Stop laughing. Next time I'm gonna have you do the intro.
No, I'm not. That's your role. I'm not doing that. I love
laughing at
I can't do that.
Stop laughing at me. All right, Bishop. With love always.
Love back.
All right. Okay.
All right. When's our next one?
Wednesday.
That's right. All right.
Wednesday.
I love it.
Bye. I love you too. Bye, Bishop. Bye.